Our opening words are by the Reverend Samantha Lynn Wilson. A call to worship is a call to focus our attention. We're called to bring our attention to the altar of unpredictable human relatedness. We're called by these ancestors, by this room's particular light, by this chalice's particular fire, and by these children among us. We are called to focus all of our attention on a foolhardy and open-hearted commitment to share a future together that we cannot control. Spirit of life, call our collective attention to this moment. Come, let us worship together. Con espíritu de reverencia, reconocemos que nos juntamos en la tierra de los Kumeyaay. Al encender esta vela, reafirmamos nuestro compromiso de cultivar relaciones significativas con los habitantes de esta tierra y de trabajar juntos por la justicia y la equidad.
In a spirit of reverence, we acknowledge that we gather on the land of the Kumeyaay. As we light this candle, we affirm our commitment to cultivate meaningful relationships with the people of this land and to work together for justice and equity.
I invite you now to rise and bow to your spirit, and we'll sing our opening hymn, number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning, Por la Tierra Sempiterna.
Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of San Diego, where we worship each Sunday in the South Bay, in Hillcrest, and online. Our mission is to create community, nurture spiritual growth, and act on our values to help heal the world. My name is Emma Parrott. I use the pronouns she, her, and I am serving as our worship associate this morning. If you are visiting, I want to extend you a special welcome. I invite you to fill out the visitor form in your order of service and return it to the welcome table. If you are joining us online, you can also fill out a visitor form at the link on the live stream page or in the YouTube service description. We would love to connect with you. If you have been coming for a while and are starting to feel like this is your spiritual home, consider becoming a member of this beloved community. If you would like to explore what it means to be a member or have questions about the membership process, you are invited to meet with Nidra Bickel right here at the front of the meeting house after the service.
Welcome to this space. Bring all of who you are, in all the beauty of languages, cultures, and skin tones that come together in your uniqueness. You are welcome. In all the ways you experience and express gender. You are welcome here. In the beauty that is who you love and how you love. You are welcome here. In all the ways you live and move and experience your embodied self. You are welcome here. With all the religious and ethical traditions that inform your spiritual life. You are welcome here. Together, may we live into our shared values with love at the center. It is good to be together. I invite you to rise again in body or spirit for our church hymn and our church aspiration. May love be the spirit of this church. May the quest for truth be its sacrament and service be its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration. Que el amor sea la doctrina de esta iglesia, la búsqueda de la verdad, su sacramento, y el servicio, su oración. Vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad con libertad y ayudarnos mutuamente en comunidad. A eso aspiramos.
Good morning, friends. I'd like to invite any of the children or youth who would like to come up and join me and my friend Emma for our Time for All Ages. While they're coming up, just call your attention to our second hour today. At 11:15, you can join the Rainbow Action Group in room 323. And at 11:30, you can join me and Reverend Justine in the common room. We're going to talk about dealing with the news today and some tips and tricks for staying sane. So good morning, friends. You know, we're talking about gardens today. And Emma runs one of the groups in our Peace Garden, and I know some of you have worked out there with her. How many of you have done some work in the garden with Emma, either making a sign or planting some seeds? I know some of you have, yeah. There's some signs out there, right, that you made? Yeah, last week, right? So I'm going to turn it over to Emma to talk about our Peace Garden.
Hi, everyone. How are we doing today? Hi, Francis. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about why I garden and what it teaches me. So the first thing that gardening teaches me is the value of putting hard work into something I love. It teaches me a lot of patience because I spend hours and hours in the garden digging and weeding, getting sweaty, and getting dirt under my fingernails and getting all gross. And I never see the results of my work right away, right? I have to wait weeks or even months for the plants to grow, and the whole time I'm weeding and pruning and doing all this work, And it can be really hard not knowing if that energy will ever pay off, right? Like maybe it's the same thing as when you're in school and you're working on all your homework and you don't know if it'll ever turn into a good grade at the end of it, you know? It's hard. And it teaches me to really value patience, because then after all that work, when a flower blooms or I get to harvest a fruit, it tastes so much sweeter because I had to wait and work so hard. Turning the page. And in waiting, the garden teaches me to hope, because I have no guarantee that the seeds I plant will ever sprout, or if they'll sprout right away and then immediately get eaten by slugs. There are so many things out of my control, like the weather, the animals, the soil, the rain. So I learn a lot about accepting the things that I can't control. But I always, always keep that little seed of hope alive inside myself, because I love my garden and all that it gives me, and I know if I keep working at it, eventually something will pay off. So I would encourage everyone, kids and grown-ups, to think about ways that these garden teachings can be echoed in our daily problems and worries, and to express gratitude for the world around us more often. And these photos are from the Peace Garden, which the kids have been helping me with, and I'm very, very grateful for all of their help. Okay, thank you guys so much for listening and for helping me out in the garden.
And thank you for coming to share that with us. And for anybody, whether you're a child, a youth, or even the grown-ups, every first Sunday at 11:30, you can join Emma out. Every fourth Sunday, you can join Emma out in the Peace Garden, which is up almost to the parking lot through room 113. So we hope to see some of you there. Hey friends, can you help me out? Those of us up here, we're going to stand up, and I need your hands. We're going to lead the congregation in our affirmation. We'll say it first in English and then in Spanish. We are Unitarian Universalists, a people of open minds, loving hearts, and welcoming hands. Somos unitarios, universalistas, personas de mentes abiertas, corazones amorosos y manos que dan la bienvenida. And now I'd like to invite any children or youth who'd like to join me and their other leaders out on the patio. We'll head to our groups.
Some announcements this morning. Lay ministers are available after the service to offer a listening presence. If you have a joy or a sorrow that you'd like to share this morning, our lay minister is Les. Look for the golden scarf. In addition to our second hour programs, we also have a tour that happens after service. So if you are newer to this community and you want to see some of the beautiful spaces of this campus, you can meet Liz Jones right here in the chancel right after service. I'd also like to invite you midweek this week on Wednesday. There will be a Zoom session called Defending Democracy, Defeating Authoritarianism. That's on March 11th at 5:30. Join Valeria and I to discuss strengthening democracy and resisting authoritarianism. We'll be looking at local issues, and we'll be looking at faith-based strategies from partners like San Diego Organizing Project and the Unitarian Universalist Association. Hope you'll join us for that time. And finally, want to invite you to join us to celebrate the life of Betsy Stevens this coming Saturday, March 14th at 1 p.m. in this room. Such a beloved and dear part of this community, and hope you can be with us to remember and to honor her.
One of the ways that we live our values is by sharing our offering with an organization that works for justice. This month, our offering is being received in support of UU Rise, UU Refugee and Immigrant Services and Education. UU Rise is a local organization working for immigrant justice. Their work includes community education on legal rights and immigration pathways, workshops, and technical assistance for community partners, and the faithful justice model that helps congregations deepen their commitment to immigrant justice and anti-oppression work. You can donate by cash or check in the boxes at the back of the meeting house, or you can text 73256 with text to donate, or scan the QR code on the screen. Thank you so much for your generosity. The offering will now be gratefully received. This is a reading by Robin Wall Kimmerer from her book Braiding Sweetgrass. Much of what fills our mouths is taken forcibly from the earth. That form of taking does no honor to the farmer, to the plants, or to the disappearing soil. It's hard to recognize food that is mummified in plastic, bought and sold, as a gift anymore. Everybody knows you can't buy love. In a garden, food arises from partnership. If I don't pick rocks and pull weeds, I'm not fulfilling my end of the bargain. I can do these things with my handy, opposable thumbs and capacity to use tools to shovel manure. But I can no more create a tomato or embroider a trellis in beans than I can turn lead into gold. That is the plant's responsibility and their gift, animating the inanimate. Now there is a gift. People often ask me what one thing I would recommend to restore relationship between land and people. My answer is almost always plant a garden. It's good for the health of the earth, and it's good for the health of people. A garden is a nursery for nurturing connection, the soil for cultivation of practical reverence. And its power goes far beyond the garden gate. Once you develop a relationship with a little patch of earth, it becomes a seed itself. Something essential happens in a vegetable garden. It's a place where if you can't say I love you out loud, you can say it in seeds, and the land will reciprocate in beans.
I invite you to join me now in a time of meditation. If it feels good, you might lower your gaze and turn your mind's eye inward. Take a moment to just check in with how your body is today. Just noticing, not needing to change anything. And then as you're willing, I'm going to invite you to join me in a guided meditation. Imagine your energy, wherever it is now, moving down, further and further, going down the legs, coming towards the feet. And imagine out of the bottom of your feet, roots starting to form. Roots coming out of the feet and going into the earth, connecting to the soil, going deeper and wider, feeling your roots strengthen and connect you to the earth. And when you get down as deep as you can go with your roots, take a moment for some quiet listening to see if there's any messages or teachings or lessons the earth wants to offer you. As you're ready, imagine yourself drinking from the earth nourishment and wisdom, groundedness, coming up through those roots that are deep, deep into the earth, traveling towards your body, beautiful grounding nourishment from this earth that is so much older and wiser than us, that's lived through so many things. And imagine that nourishment coming up through the feet, grounding and connecting you, and up through the ankles, into the knees and the thighs, being filled with nourishment and groundedness and connection. Coming up through the hips and the belly, drinking it up into the heart and the chest, down the arms and into the beautiful hands that you have that help work the soil. Back up into the throat and the head. And then feeling that nourishment resting in the heart center, that groundedness, that wisdom. Take a moment to drink it in. Thank you for our connection to the soil and to the seeds, to the water and the sunlight, to the wind and the rain, to all that sustains and animates life on this beloved home, our earth. Blessed be. What a beautiful gift. Thank you. As a child, I spent a lot of time in the garden with my grandparents. In my mind, I can see my grandfather's green beans winding up these giant trellises that he would construct every year. I can see long rows of tomatoes, heavy with red, ripe fruit. He'd grow these bushels of big, sweet basil, and they'd brush up against the prickly spines of cucumbers and the yellow blossoms of zucchinis. The fence would be overrun with gugutz vines, a long Italian squash the size of a baseball bat. My grandmother loved flowers as much as my grandfather treasured his vegetable garden. The driveway was lined with these brilliant blue and purple hydrangeas, and underneath them there were these pink bleeding hearts that cascaded over the sides. She had hanging baskets that she made each year that were overflowing with fuchsias and impatiens and all different shades of wax begonias. By the patio, there was this circle, and each year came up the peonies, luscious and burgundy with all of these different layers and petals. And they were right next to my grandmother's rose garden, which was her prized area. There were roses of every color and every scent that you could imagine. And so I spent my childhood in the garden with them, my hands in the soil, learning how to tend to the plants. They taught me how to water at the right time of day so as not to burn the leaves. They taught me how to tie up the plants delicately with this cotton string, to take food scraps from the table and to go out lovingly and place the food scraps around the bases of the plants to feed them, how to trim off the dead parts so that new life could grow and more growth could happen, how to know when it was time to harvest, and how to do it with care so that you wouldn't hurt the plant. And they also taught me to see the signs of when it was time for the garden to rest for winter. The kind of knowledge that my grandparents passed down to me was not something they learned in books or took in classes. It came from their relationship to the soil and to the seeds and to the plants. It also came from their mothers and fathers and their before them who worked in the garden together, even when it was just a pot in a tenement in Brooklyn. Of all the things I've learned from them in the garden, the most important was how to pay loving attention, to be patient and present, to be open and curious, to notice what's needed in the moment and to do it. Being in the garden is like learning another language, one that doesn't have any words. You can only navigate it with your senses and your attention and your open heart. I look back now and I realize that the first time I experienced spiritual practice and mindfulness was as a child in the garden. I have particularly this memory of my grandfather teaching me how to sow the green bean seeds. He didn't tell me, he showed me. And silently, in the dirt, we placed each seed, equally spaced, and covered them with soil and watered them. When was the last time you had your hands in the soil? What did it teach you? What in your life is calling for your loving attention? This forging of a relationship with the soil, the seeds, and the plants has happened for me over a lifetime. And I think that that relationship has taught me some things about being fully alive, what it means to be alive in the garden, and what it means to be alive in my daily life. So today, I want to share with you some lessons from my garden. Lesson number 1. We tend the garden, but we are not in control. Last spring, right around this time last year, I planted 10 tomato seedlings in the raised beds in the community garden of my apartment complex. I prepared the soil and the sunniest parts of the bed. I put up the supports to keep them off the ground. I watered and fertilized. They began to grow, lush and green, getting bigger and taller than I could have imagined. They were so tall that they grew up 5 or 6 feet and then started to grow down again. They were so beautiful. Soon they got little yellow flowers and then were laden with tiny little green tomatoes. As summer came on, the tomatoes started to ripen and turn red, and when I got to enjoy them, they were delicious. There's something different about a tomato you grow yourself. I was overjoyed. And then, one day in the peak of the harvest season, I began to notice that some of the leaves had some damage. I turned them over, and underneath were tiny green worms. So each day, I went out and I scoured the plants on my hands and knees. I looked under every leaf of these 10 plants that were so huge, and I picked them off personally. And because I don't believe in killing things, I relocated them outside of the apartment, every single one of these little tiny worms. And to no avail. They kept multiplying, chewing my lush and green, beautiful plants down to dry, brittle sticks. I was frustrated and angry and disappointed and sad. I felt humbled and like I had failed, not only myself, but my plants. We tend the garden, but we are not in control. The garden teaches me that there is just an inherent risk in being alive. We might create the conditions for thriving, but there are no guarantees. We cannot make the seed sprout or the flower bloom. We cannot prevent scorching temperatures or droughts or flooding rains or pests. There will be loss. There will be heartbreak. There will be disease and unexpected disasters. And yet, the tending still matters. I love when Emma talked about how you give your hard work to something you love, whether you know it's going to produce something or not. We tend to life, whether we know there will be a harvest or if the harvest is this small. Lesson number 2, trust the unfolding. So many years ago, just before Lucas was born, I was sitting on the stoop of our cottage, a different place, and I was looking out at our flower garden. We had made it just with pots because we lived in this cottage. We had about a strip of land like this big, but we put the pots there and I was growing my flowers. And in this cottage, we were in a canyon. And so it was morning and the sun hadn't quite made it into the little canyon that we lived in. So I'm sitting on the porch and I'm just looking out at the flowers. And I watch those little rays of sunshine come and these buttery fingers. And I'm watching right at the moment when that ray of light first touches the bud of a poppy. And I watch it open. This tissue paper, orangey, beautiful thing slowly unfolding itself right before my eyes. It was astonishing. In my whole life, I had never seen a flower bloom in real time. That moment, even though it was a singular moment, it's stayed with me. And it reminds me that all things, including you and including me, have something inside of us that wants to bloom. something that in our true nature that wants to unfold. We can't force it, but we can nurture it, and we can bear witness to it. And it reminds me about how I want to be present to my own soul, to that which in me is calling to bloom and to unfold, and how I want to be present to your souls, as if you are something precious, waiting to unfold. And it is certainly the way that I want to be a parent. I want to listen deeply and pay loving attention and notice what's trying to bloom inside my child. And I want to trust in its timing. Because similar to our plants with our children, we accompany them. We contribute to the conditions that will nourish them, but it's their journey. We can't control it. We are just a witness to their unfolding. And lesson 3, we are part of something ancient and vast and wise. For 5 years, our family lived in Washington State between Seattle and Tacoma. One of the gifts of that time in our lives was that we had half an acre of land that we looked out, and we could see the Puget Sound out the back window. There was ample room for as many things as I wanted to grow. I had a flower garden, and I had vegetable gardens, and even a small fruit orchard that I planted during the pandemic years. So there were gifts, but as you may know, in Seattle, the winters are long, and they're cold, and they're dark, and they're wet. Sometimes in the winter, the sun wouldn't come up until 10, and it would be down before 4, and I wouldn't have seen it at all. And so those winter months were particularly challenging, especially the times that I had to spend inside. But at the first sign of thawing ground, I was out in the garden, and I was planting the hardiest things we could, primrose, which could sustain frost, and snow-peed seedlings. And I remember this moment where it had been a particularly hard winter. We were in the midst of the pandemic. So not only were we inside, but we were isolated from everyone we loved, and in my church community, I was only with them online. And it was a hard time. And it was just starting to thaw, and the sun was coming out, and I put my hands in the soil for the first time of the season. And I was flooded with this sense of well-being. I just had this deep knowing in myself that we would make it through the winter, that I was okay. I think when we connect to the earth, we connect to a different sense of time and to what we belong to our interconnectedness, that we are part of something vast that is alive and wise and ancient and has been through more troubled times than we have been in our entire lives. And I think it knows how to guide us if we're patient enough to listen. I also think that the earth can ground us in times of deep uncertainty. So you might be asking yourself, how does tending the garden matter right now? Faced with another war, too many innocent lives lost, too much corruption, injustice, and suffering. Reverend Cameron Trimble, a progressive spiritual leader, wrote just this week a reflection called Planting Trees in Frightening Times that I want to share with you. She says this: a rabbi once told a story that people have carried through centuries of upheaval. Someone asked him a frightening question. What should a person do if they knew the world would end tomorrow? It was not a philosophical question. It was the kind of question people ask when history begins to feel unstable, when wars spread, when leaders make decisions that place millions of lives at risk, when the future no longer feels dependable. The rabbi did not dismiss the fear. He did not say the person was exaggerating. He did not rush to reassure them that everything would be fine. He simply answered, then today you should plant a tree. At first, the answer sounds strange. If the world ends tomorrow, why plant anything at all? Why place something fragile into the soil if there may be no future to receive it? But the rabbi understood something about the human soul. When people begin to believe that the future is lost, they stop tending life. They stop caring for the earth, they stop caring for one another. Fear slowly shrinks the boundaries of their humanity. The rabbi refused to let fear have that power. He said, plant a tree. Plant a tree even if the news grows more violent. Plant it even if leaders act recklessly. Plant it even if the future feels uncertain. Plant it because tending life is who we are. Because compassion still matters. Because truth still matters. Because the future, even an uncertain one, is still worthy of care. Keep tending life. May we go forth with these teachings from the garden. May they accompany us, reminding us to pay loving attention to the garden, to the earth, to our souls, to one another, and to keep tending life. May we put our hands in the soil and listen deeply to the ancient wisdom that might help us navigate these deeply uncertain times. Blessed be, and amen. I invite you to rise in body or spirit. Join in our closing hymn, We Shall Be Known by Mamuse.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known as the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now, that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now, that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
In this time, may we continue to lead in love, and may we go forth tending life. Blessed be, and go in peace.